Hi, this is Anna Crowe with the Get Real podcast, where CEOs, CMOs, and exceptional leaders share their real advice. It's 6 questions under 9 minutes because we get to it real fast. So let's get to it. In a few sentences, please tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Lydia Fenet. I'm the Global Managing Director of Strategic Partnerships at Christie's and the author of a book called The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You. So I like to say that my entire life is about sales. I sell in my job at work, and then I sell anytime I'm on stage as a charity auctioneer from Christie's. And that's really what led me to write the book.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being on today. Really excited to connect with you.
Thrilled to be here.
So Lydia, please tell us, what is the best thing about being a leader in your industry?
The best thing about being a leader right now is, frankly, being a female leader, because for the longest time, our leaders were male. And it's been fantastic to almost create a role that I could run as a female and encourage younger women who are working in the organization to try out new things in an organization that's been around for 260 years. So leadership for me is simply putting a stake in the ground, going for it, and if it doesn't work, pivoting quickly and finding another solution. So I love to show that to younger women and make them realize that you don't always have to be right, but to be a leader, you have to have a vision.
I love that. And I loved your book. I know we can spend a whole other segment just talking about the book, but hopefully you can give us some great advice from there as well. My next question is around connections. You mentioned sales, which obviously is very relationship driven in general, but I hear from other successful executives that creating authentic connections can be challenging when it's a little noisy out there, like it is today. What's your take on that?
I truly believe that the best way to sell is by making connections. And I never think that people are not willing to give a little bit more than sometimes you think they might be. People like to talk about themselves. There's no question about that. So asking someone before you launch into a pitch, a couple of questions about their life is never going to hurt you. And I think it also makes you feel more comfortable when you go into any kind of pitch. So for me, authenticity is the way I have lived my life and the way that I lead. And I truly believe the best salespeople are the people who understand that.
That's fantastic. And what other real advice could you give to other leaders? Is there anything else that you think is really important?
I truly think that the most important thing in leadership is humanity. I have never worked with anyone who has had a terrible temper or was incapable of delivering a message in a kind way that I did not respect. And I truly think that respect is the key to good leadership. Honestly, if you are the kind of person who has a terrible temper, most of the time people are coming to you with fear, and they are being led by fear. And therefore, if something goes wrong, the last person to protect you is going to be the team that you've built by fear. The people who will protect you at the top, and especially at a time that's difficult, I mean, look at the time that we're in right now, the people who protect those leaders are the people who are loyal to those leaders. And you imbue loyalty in your team by being human with them and being authentic with them and leading with kindness. So that would be my biggest, especially with what we're going through right now, that would be my biggest tip to any leader who is about to step into a role where they're taking on more than they really feel like they can handle at this time.
That's great advice. And you're so spot on. I think that humanity is so important. And especially you talk about younger women and new managers. A lot of times there's really no training on authenticity and how to embrace the kindness or the kind person that you are, right? So I love that advice, and thank you for sharing that.
Yes. And I also think to that point that one other thing I'll say, I know this is 9 minutes, but one other thing I'll say is a lot of people think that leadership comes by being stern and being in charge. They don't realize that there can be a softer side to that. And those are usually the more effective leaders who stay around for longer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Well, before we jump into our final fun question, what other successful executives such as yourself would you like to give a shout out to or think should be on this podcast?
Alexa Von Tobel is someone that I've always admired. I don't know if she's been on it yet, but I absolutely love her. She started LearnBest when she was 30 years old and sold it to Northwestern Mutual for $360 million a couple years later. And she now has a company called Inspired Capital, which really invests in female-funded companies. And she's a dynamo. She has 3 children, and she is always on it. She's always positive, and she's always kind. That's what I love about Alexa.
Oh, I'd love to connect with her. Appreciate that. Okay, well, our final question is more of a fun one because I always love to get a sense of where people came from. Tell us about your first job.
So my first job was at a lemonade stand outside of my house. So that would be my first job. But my second job, which I consider my first job, was working as a runner at my dad's law firm. So I was in the copy room and I made copies all day, every day, and then would drive those copies around town. It was very unglamorous, but it taught me one of my greatest lessons in life, which is it doesn't matter where you're working. If you are in a room with a copy machine, people come in there and you meet people. So always use the opportunity to meet people, no matter what job you're in. And a job where you're making copies, you're meeting every single person in that company at some point. So network, network, network. And never forget, even the smallest person on the totem pole will one day be the biggest. So be kind to everyone.
Thank you. That's great. Awesome. Well, Lydia, how can people get a hold of you? Of course, if you'd like for them to get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a website, lydiafenet.com, and I'm also on Instagram all the time because I love that vehicle. It's free marketing at Lydia Fenet. So you can DM me on Instagram or you can contact me through my website, which again is lydiafenet.com.
Great. Well, this is Anna Crowe with the Get Real podcast. For more insights, visit us at crowepr.com. Thanks so much and make it a great day.